Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, April 8th, and the Public Safety meeting is now called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kritz people. And now, item 2 is our Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will rise. And Commissioner Nickel, will you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commission Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramian?
Present.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Here.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Here.
Vice Chair Salzman is absent, and Chair Hallman.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Sir?
None that I'm aware of, Chair.
Great. Can I get an approval first?
Motion to approve agenda.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, can I please get another roll call?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramian?
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Chair Hallman.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Great, thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our March 11th meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Commission Secretary, can I get another roll call?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramian?
Aye.
Commissioner Freiberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Chair Hallman.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Great, thank you, Commission Secretary. Item 7, or rather, excuse me, item 6 on our agenda is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any comments in chambers?
Yes, we have 2 in chambers. We have no Zoom callers this evening. First comment is by Sumant Shande. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Sumant Shande. I'm a resident of West Hollywood. I come before you tonight to talk about a public safety issue, specifically at
Excuse me, I apologize, not to interrupt you, but can you lean in so we
Oh, can you hear me?
Perfect,
All right.
thank you.
Yes, I wanted to talk today or tonight about the issue I often encounter living at the intersection of Cynthia and Doheny Drive in West Hollywood, where we have a lot of traffic north-south and east-west that go through that intersection. Although this posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour, one of the main things we often see there are people going far above that speed limit without any impediment between that north-south route between Santa Monica Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard. And as a result, with traffic on Cynthia going east-west, we often see car accidents there, which are one of the outcomes of not having enough speed mitigation or a traffic light. And I believe I've submitted a handful of photos documenting over the course of approximately 3 months, 3 major car accidents that had airbags deploy, people were injured, and although I personally have never seen somebody seriously injured or be killed in that intersection, I'm extremely concerned with how there seems to be no way to slow down traffic there. So I wanted to highlight that there's an opportunity for the city to seriously reconsider the way that we handle traffic at that intersection.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Commissioner, Chair, and Commissioners. I am Wendy Goldman, longtime resident of the Cynthia Sunset area, and I am also the block captain of the Cynthia Sunset Neighborhood Watch Group. We are supporting this idea so that we could have, if not enforcement, then the City of Beverly Hills I have contacted them about this traffic signal and reached out to their liaison. So I would like to request that data be presented to you and to the Transportation Commission regarding this intersection and see if there's something that can be done to improve pedestrian safety and traffic safety. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Nick Roybal. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Evening, Chair Holman and Commissioners. I'm grateful to be here and to use this opportunity. First, yesterday there was a gathering at Plummer Park of East Side residents of West Hollywood. I witnessed that what was meant to be a gathering of concerned citizens that on the surface could look like it was a gathering because parking spaces were going to be taken away from various people that live on a certain street. It became clear, Commissioners, that it was actually about safety for bicyclists, for people who live in their homes on that street, for people who walk, for people who work, for people who want to take their pet to the park, grandmothers, children, grandchildren. And that really struck me, that a meeting that was on the surface supposed to be about, okay, we're taking away parking space for, a bike lane, everyone was talking about public safety. Everyone. So that was revealing. Second, I have witnessed in the Rainbow District by all of our clubs and bars between Robertson and San Vicente, at night, happy hour-ish, people jet across the street, right? They don't walk to Robertson, they don't walk to San Vicente. So I have a wonder, a question, which is an ask. What do each of you think about creating some kind of mechanism, whether it's a sign in multi-languages, to say, please cross at the 2 lights and don't dart across the median? Because I don't want somebody to die because they were enjoying themselves at one of our businesses and didn't want to actually walk a little down that way or down that way to cross. Third, the situation with our unhoused in our city. I know there are many layers, mechanisms, levels of bureaucracy with this. I know that. I'm not naive. Something isn't working. And I know we have the block by block number, but something isn't working. And I'm wondering, here's my question. I'm wondering, my ask for you, what do you think we could do better about this as a safety commission? Are there ideas we haven't explored? Should we give everybody the WeHo Cares number? Yeah, so that's my third thought. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
And we have no more public comments.
Great, thank you. Item 7 is unfinished business, and it looks like we don't have anything on our agenda for the evening. So moving forward to item 8, which is new business, we will now hear a report from the Los Angeles County Fire Department.
Wow, did somebody turn it on before I even walked up? That is efficiency right there. My name is Battalion Chief Sarah Rathbun. I work right up the street at Fire Station 7 on the A shift here in West Hollywood, so I'm responsible for 1/3 of the days in your city. Today for our fire activity report for March, we had a total response number of 608. Of those, 440 were medical, and the next highest number was 147 good intent calls, and those are calls of persons sleeping, of smell of smoke in an area, gas, things like that that we investigate and usually turn out to just be minor issues. Of the 440 patients that we saw, we transported 325 of them, which continues to put a high load on our local hospitals. In fact, our paramedics are reporting that they are having to transport to Hollywood Presbyterian pretty frequently, which we try and avoid because it does take us out of our service area, and it's a long drive back without the lights and sirens for safety from Hollywood Press. As most of you are aware, that traffic is legendary. Of the fires that we did have in March, most of them were cooking related. Fortunately, the quick actions of the crew, and in one case, actually, the employees of the building kept them from spreading further. Two of them were actually due to flammable items near floor heaters, and as you know, we used our floor heaters and our wall heaters quite a few times in March, and a few of them were cooking related, grease fires in the oven, cooking fires extending to cabinets, etc., but they were all held to the unit of origin and in most cases the room of origin. I'll open it up to any questions.
Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Battalion Chief. Thank you for your report. I have a question in just regards to the report. Out of the 440 calls, responses that were made, are we able to identify how many of those were West Hollywood residents, how many are visitors, how many are out of state, out of country? I'm just trying to, build a picture, see, are there locals, are they visitors? Any information you can provide will be appreciated.
Yeah, sure. That's something that I could definitely run by our EMS quality improvement section. We don't generally aggregate or share the data for patients because of HIPAA protection, but I could see why you would want that information, and I can ask them if that's something they can provide. We also don't necessarily ask when we pick up a patient from a street corner where they live. That's something the hospital asks them. We ask them their age, date of birth, and their medical history, and then there are certain markers that we're gathering on a national basis, like whether or not they're unhoused, whether or not they're veteran status, things like that, but we don't always grab that address. And sometimes the address that we pick them up at is not necessarily their home address, and we don't clarify that either. So I don't know how accurate those numbers would be if we got them for you, but I'm happy to look into it.
So when fire arrives at a residence, you don't ask for ID, identification and stuff like that, because that information should be under ID.
We do, we just don't capture the address. We capture their date of birth and their name.
Got it, thank you.
The hospital does capture their address, but that's a wider net, as you know.
And my other question I have, unfortunately, drug overdoses and, situations are on the rise. And I see there is drug overdose and chest pains and major injuries are there. Is there any way to identify, is chest pain part of, someone who has, utilized pharmaceuticals, major injury, person sick? How are we to know if it was a methamphetamine, a cocaine overdose, if it was, any other drugs of the sort? How would we be able to know what the causes were?
Yeah, it's a great question. There is a box that we tick on our electronic patient care report if drugs are suspected and if it does not already relate to the chief complaint. But these numbers here that you have and the chest pain and overdose that you're referring to below refer to specifically the chief complaint of the person in that moment. And to your point, chest pain may be a methamphetamine overdose. It also may be a little old lady who's got cardiac problems. Right. So unfortunately, until the hospital goes through their diagnostics, we don't know what the end result is unless they admit to it on scene, in which case they might check that box for possibly drug related. There's also a box for alcohol related as well. But I believe they mostly check that box in a certain block radius right above us for almost every patient, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anyone else with a question? Commissioner Secretary, do we have any questions in chambers?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much for your time. Great to see you. Item 8B, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department will now provide a report on activity for the month of March.
Good evening. Okay, for the month of March, West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,639 calls for service. Of those calls, 76 were of an emergency response. For the month, the deputies made 22 felony arrests and 52 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month totaled 174. When broken down by district, the West District accounted for 53% with 93 of the Part 1 crimes, City Center 18%, 31, and the East 29%, 50. Our Part 1 crimes, again, being driven by theft, grand theft, petty theft, burglaries, things of that nature. We had 29 pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District. Our entertainment policing team continues to do foot patrols and make contacts with the bar and club staff on a regular basis to keep them aware of the problem and what's going on with it. In March, our station volunteers donated over 360 hours of time, which included such duties as working our public counter, handling social media support, assisting with the LA Marathon. Recently, a study was done from the University of Maryland that calculated the value for volunteers' time at about $31.80 per hour. For our first quarter, our West Hollywood Station volunteers equated a value of $29,161 of savings, basically using their time. On March 17th, the LA Marathon came through the city. There were over 24,000 participants. We had no significant incidents to report with the marathon itself. We had over 70 deputies assigned to traffic control posts along with parking enforcement officers and station volunteers. It was a very successful event and great community turnout for support. This past March, we had 3 catalytic converter thefts. There's been more of an increase in the LA area with these thefts kind of coming back. They disappeared, now they're back. Our station plans to host another etching event. We do not have a date set as of right now, but we're looking at early May for the event. We're open to any questions you may have.
Great. Commissioners?
Yep, I have one. Sorry, my.
Oh, sure. Commissioner Harrison.
Can you maybe talk about a little about Part 1, which increased, and if you have any thoughts on why there's a spike in Part 1?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Part 1 crimes? It looks like there was a bit of an uptick.
I think they were a little bit up in comparison to last month. Let me see, last month we were at 148, which was a very low number, which is great. But it's a slight increase from last month. And anytime we're below 200, essentially, it's good. It's a good thing. Those numbers are down, essentially. Last year we had some numbers in the high 2s, so there is a slight uptick, but there's nothing that I can really speak on to equate that why those numbers are up a little bit. It's just crime trends, things happen different months. Weather's getting better, people come out, that type of thing.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramey.
Thank you for your report. I have a quick question. I've noticed that the total arrests are down compared to 2023. Do we know what the cause of that may be?
It's really tough to put a reason for things, essentially. Like I said, crimes go up, contacts go up. There's no set necessary pattern to those things. Like I said, sometimes weather plays a factor with things, with the number of people that we're having contact with. Yeah, they are down, but there is not something that we could put our thumb on and say, yeah, that's what it was.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nickel.
Thank you, Chair Hallman. Thank you, Sergeant Duran and Lieutenant Lapkin, for your report. On St. Patrick's Day, there was an assault in the Rainbow District. Is there any update on that?
To clarify, do you know where this one? We had a couple of things that were reported, but there was one that I saw your email regarding it, and I think the one that you're talking about was maybe Santa Monica and Hancock.
It was around the pavilions.
Oh, so it's a different one.
Yeah.
I couldn't find data on that one, so I don't have any updates for you. There was a different one that I was looking at that I thought that you were looking at or talking about, but I'll definitely research and either get back to you next meeting or by email.
Great, thank you. And the 7-Eleven was robbed, the one at the 7600 block of Santa Monica Boulevard on the 19th, I believe. Has anyone been ID'd? Has anyone been caught?
I know our detectives have been out to that location and other locations surrounding it looking for video currently. As of right now, there's no arrests, but they are definitely working on identifying the suspect.
And just a little bit west from there at the Golden Rule Liquor, was there a robbery there? Somebody broke the window, which is the same thing that happened at the 7-Eleven, to gain entry. So was there a robbery or was it just vandalism?
I think that was just the vandalism. From what we can tell, you never really tell the intent of somebody when they're not there anymore. So, it could have been one thing and it turned into another. We really don't know, but it's probably more of a vandalism based on what it looked like. I mean, we've had some recent vandalisms involving windows, things like that nearby. So.
Got it. And I was at a neighborhood event yesterday, and a lot of the neighbors were talking about the stop sign at Lexington and Gardner. And I know it's an issue. I think the first ride along that I did, the officer specifically mentioned that people just don't stop there. They roll through it. Is it possible to get more eyes on that, have a traffic cop there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then to address that and then address the public comment that we had regarding Cynthia, we will be making contact with our traffic division, Sergeant Davis, who you guys have met, to address those issues. We do have 2 motorcycle deputies that are assigned to handle just traffic type related issues. We will have them focus on those areas. It's always been an issue on that street, that intersection. People use it to kind of cut across from Fountain to Santa Monica. And it can get bad. I've seen accidents there. There's issues there. Same thing with Cynthia and Doheny. It is a problem over there, and we will have our traffic people address that.
Great. One last question. Test strips. Thankfully, they're in most bars, restaurants. If somebody were to test their drink and it shows up that it has been spiked, what should they do? I mean, has a law been broken then? Should they call the police?
Yes. Call the station. We'll take a report, but we'll also take a urine sample. Because we've had difficulties with going to Cedars and the way the certain drugs metastasize in your urine. So what we do, we process it as a DUI. So we take the evidence and then we take it to our lab, and our lab will test it. We'll take a report indicating that it's a possibility of a drug spiking. Bring the test strip with us because we'll book that as evidence as well, but we'll also have to take a urine sample. We take a urine sample and then we process it through our lab. We write a report, and then depending on what the lab indicates, then we proceed from there. But as you know, a lot of the time, we don't have a suspect. It's just, I'm glad that the test strips are out there so you can be safe. You look at it and there shows some type of activity on your drink, whether it tests positive, and I don't know what exactly the colors, but if it shows anything, obviously it's for your safety, number one, don't drink it. But first and foremost, that's that. You know what I mean? That's a telltale sign. But call us. Go to the station and say, I tested my drink and it showed positive. We book it as evidence. We take a report. We take a urine sample. Like I said, we do it like with a DUI or somebody suspected of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and we process it that way. At the end of the day, hopefully we can identify the person who spiked the drink, but I unfortunately, a lot of the time we do not have clear evidence of who spiked a drink or not, but that's the procedure. tested, test positive, come to the station, we file a police report, we actually book that into evidence, and we actually take a urine sample, we process it through our lab, and that's how we move from there.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Freiberg.
Good evening, and thank you for your report. Just a couple questions. I think it was in May 2023, we added the entertainment policing sergeant to the force. So why are we still seeing such high numbers of pickpocketing incidents?
Well, a sergeant really isn't necessarily going to solve that issue. The sergeant's there to oversee the team and supervise them. He does go out with them and be sure that they're out on the streets, making people aware of the pickpocketing situation. We have done some operations since he's been there. So it's not necessarily that position is going to solve the problem. That problem is probably not going to go away. It's going to be an ongoing thing that we continue to battle with. And just notifying people, keeping them aware of their surroundings, things like that really is what's going to solve the problem.
Okay.
One of the things, just to add to that too, is they go and do education. They'll go talk to the bars, the managers, and making sure that the patrons are aware. Don't leave your purse hanging from the back of your chair. Don't leave your wallet on the table if you're not paying attention to it. Don't keep it in your back pocket, because some people don't even notice that they got pickpocketed until they're so quick that you don't even feel it, somebody taking it. So for us, one of the other steps too as prevention is education. So they do go out there and talk to management, talk to patrons in regards to pickpocketing.
Yeah, I think that was my other concern, is most people probably don't even know what happened. So I know these numbers are probably way higher. And I know people who have been pickpocketed but didn't want to admit it and didn't want to go to the police or the sheriffs, and report it. The other thing I wanted to ask, I wanted to circle back about the observations 3 meetings ago. I asked the sheriffs why the observations were reported 2,500 fewer than the previous year, and what you think that signifies. And Sergeant Duran, I know you said you didn't know, and I had talked to Director Rivas, and he was looking into it, so I was wondering if there are any updates.
For us, I saw those numbers, an email regarding that. I don't think it's 2,500. I think it was more like 250 from one year to the next.
That was monthly. I'm talking about the whole year.
Oh, the whole entire year. Yeah, so I mean, like I explained with the arrest, it's really tough to put a nail down a reason for things. When we make observations, like I said, it could be a wide variety of things. Traffic stop, it can be a follow-up on a call. It can be when the deputies are briefing at the beginning of their shift. It could be their vehicle broke down and they make an observation. So there's just such a wide, vast variety of what observations are, that there's so much fluctuation in there. It could be a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the deputies are doing less work. It doesn't mean that the deputies are doing less traffic stops. It's just kind of the nature of the beast for the year. Next year it could be 2,500 more, and there won't be necessarily a reason that we can nail down for those numbers.
Yeah, I think the other thing that it comes to mind is, is block by block. Is that making a difference? It's trying to figure out what's really working. So maybe there is something working besides, maybe block by block is picking up the extra slack and there's not that interaction. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, trying to figure out what works.
Yeah, just keep in mind too, the other thing is the term observations. That's something that the deputy is doing self-initiated. So that's something that they've created in their computer, a call that they've created, whatever it is that they're doing, that they've created. It isn't necessarily a call for service. Those are handled and treated in a different way. So observations are generated by the deputies themselves.
Okay. And then my last question was about, last year we received that report back from the Center for Policing Equity, and we talked about traffic stops that turned into searches and the average of 90% of the time not finding anything. So I was wondering if your department had changed any procedures since the report came out in light of the special meeting we had with council.
There hasn't been any policy change in regards
or
procedures in regards to traffic stops. I know that Commissioner Saltzman was asking in regards to the RIPA stops. And the RIPA stops are, you can go, we're trying to figure out what's the best way to put it on add it to our reports, but the RIPA stops will tell you specifically, you can select by week, by day, by year, by month, on just specifically for West Hollywood, and it'll indicate, you can select by race, you can select by the type of search, and then you generate that, and it gives you 8 different fields of what here at the station we're doing. And it's not something, because we report it through the SACers, so it's not something that the station is actually inputting. It's something directly that it's through our transparency page for the Sheriff's Department website. You can go in there, and at any time you can check for the RIPA stats that include the searches, whether or not something was found. It's a variety, but I have the list here, but I can't read it because it's too small, so I apologize for that. But it'll have like the reason of the violation, what's the justification, I'm trying to read it, justification of the stop, what the deputy's actions were, and what were the outcomes of the stop. So all that, for every stop that we do, that goes into the RIPA, and you have access to it. So you can look at it on, like I said, you can look at it on a days, weeks, and then your calendar month, and then years. You can go as far and customize it to whatever LASD station, but you can make it, specifically to West Hollywood. But as far as like any procedures changing, there hasn't been any procedures to be changed.
So then the stops are going to continue?
The traffic stops?
The stops and searches.
If the deputy has reasonable suspicion to do a traffic stop and probable cause to search, or reasonable suspicion to search the individual, then they are.
Even though they're wrong 90% of the time?
Well,
that's pretty bad odds.
I mean, I don't know where you got the 90% that they're off, but I mean, if...
It was the average across the board. This happened at our special meeting. This is what they reported.
I don't have that number in front of me, but I mean, I can look at the CPE report and state what they reported. But the deputies here, West Hollywood, are doing the best to keep our community safe. They're going to continue to do traffic stops when there's a crime involved. If there's a crime, they're not just stopping people for no apparent reason. There's a violation, there's a BOLO, there's whether it be a traffic violation, they're wanted for, a lot of the times our robberies are, thank God for the cameras that we have. We enter that license plate into the computer system, and that camera pops up with that individual, that car is wanted for a robbery. So it's not that they're wrong 90% of the time. I don't know, I have to look at the numbers, what the data indicated, but we're using the resources that we have to try and keep our community safe.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Blau.
Thank you. I want to go back to something that Commissioner Freiberg was asking about. There's an online system for submitting police reports for the station, right? I've looked at it, but a question related to the story that she brought up that might be good information for the community. Would a pickpocketing report be a good example of utilization of that system, or does it have to be something more benign, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so the online reporting is not just a West Hollywood station thing, it's all of our stations throughout the entire county. The system is called SORTS, which is an acronym that the Sheriff's Department uses, Sheriff's Online Report Tracking System. Complicated, I know, is that overly? But yes, essentially, yes, it could be. So some of the criteria for our online reporting would be the value has to be a little bit on the low side in the way of things. So $950 or less. So most people's cell phones nowadays are probably pushing upwards of $1,000 to $1,200, depending on what you're using. So if it's $950 or less, and you do not have any suspect information, it's just a pickpocket, you turn around, your phone was gone, yeah, you could make that report online.
All right, thank you.
I have a question in regards to pickpocketing, as I know we're about to get into high season with Pride and everything. Does the Sheriff's Department or the city have any signage that can be distributed amongst the bars and restaurants that's a visible reminder to patrons to be aware?
I know we don't. We do not, but I know that some of the bars and clubs already have their own signage up, but we don't have any signage.
Director Rivas, does the city have anything?
We do not have anything that relates to that specifically. And as Lieutenant Lapkin had mentioned, many of the establishments, specifically in the Rainbow District, do already provide that. A lot of times they'll even have messaging that will come on, on the hour through their TV screens that they have throughout, and then they'll place them in the restrooms as well. They'll make mention of that at the door, whoever's, security staff, mentioning that to folks as well. And I know even some venues even have their DJs announce that, on the hour. And so those are some of the things that I know establishments do, but we don't have specific signage that we provide to the businesses.
Okay, great, but we are trying.
Moving into Pride, the Sheriff's Department will probably be doing like a social media post about some safety tips as well.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rainey.
Just to piggyback, thank you, Chair. Just to piggyback on what Chair Hallman was saying, Director Rivas, is there any way we can add like a graphic on the bus stops in West Hollywood? Because there is signage at the bus stops. Because I know some of the clubs and bars in West Hollywood, you are correct, they do have signage that says, beware of pickpocketers. And I know there's several bus shelters in West Hollywood that have TV screens and monitors. Is there a way we could add those beware of pickpocketers on those bus shelters?
It definitely something that we can look into. We'll consult with our communications and economic development department to see if that's something that we can do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we assume that this would be something that would be absorbed, this information dissemination by the public affairs position that we've talked about? I mean, this is...
Yeah,
okay.
this would be something
Just
that
to
would be
reinforce
part of,
that
yes.
position at some point.
And she's officially started, but she has to go through the training, so
That's great.
We're very happy that we're going to have our social media that's going to help us with disseminating information and things happening now that we can disseminate throughout the city.
And can I, just following up on that, I also attended the Palmer Park meeting yesterday, and it was apparent that it was a safety issue, that a lot of residents were voicing concern. They also didn't feel like they had information. It was never raised as a public safety concern to them. And I'm just curious, and maybe you don't have the answer and it's fine, but within this position for public affairs, so the information officer, would that be something that they would notify residents of? Would that ever come up?
As public safety issues?
A public safety issue for changes that are being made, in this case, bike lanes that are being added, requiring them to walk further to their parking.
That would be something that would be part of the city to put out.
Just curious, and
Director
then maybe that's a question.
No, so commissioners, so no, that wouldn't be something that the public information officer working at the sheriff's station would put out. That is something that our long-range planning division is handling, so it's mobility and transportation related as it relates to parking. And so the information as it relates to outreach that was done before or brought before the city council and kind of doing additional outreach as it relates to that. This is the first I've heard of a safety specific related nexus to that item, but it relates to parking, right? A decision being made to remove parking to create bike lanes and provide that type of mobility. But if there are safety related concerns or issues, if they're traffic related, then that would be something that would be more Transportation and Mobility Commission would hear. If there's enforcement compliance, that's something that we can certainly work into the West Hollywood Sheriff Station operations and having additional traffic motors there doing enforcement, and taking a look at it from that perspective. But if it's, adding a traffic signal or putting some sort of traffic calming measures in place, then that's something that would go through our traffic engineering division and long range planning, and they would work that through Transportation Commission.
Director Rivas, also just back to the problem that we're having with the pickpocketing. I know we do have a very active WehoCity X page. Is any of that blasted out through that? Because I know a lot of announcements gone on our X page about upcoming events and things. Maybe it would be beneficial if we put that in rotation on that page as well.
It's something that we'll also talk to communications about. I know that there'll be public safety related updates. I'll have to look at last year's to see, what we did in anticipation of Pride and Halloween, because it is opportunity for folks that want to engage in that type of act because of the crowds, and so we'll definitely look and see what type of messaging. If there hasn't been, we'll make the request and see if that's something that can be incorporated in there.
Okay, great, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Commission Secretary, do we have any questions in chambers?
Yes, we have 2 public comments. First one's Nick Roybal, if you want to approach the podium.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you again. First, to Sheriff Luna, to Captain Mulder, to Lieutenant Lapkin, to Sergeant Duran, thank you. Second, on Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m., there will be a community meeting with our trans siblings and our Sheriff's Department at the WeHo Rec. I think this reflects the work that we are doing, ING, in terms of where we're going, and I commend everyone that is making that possible. So Wednesday, a trans training about hate crimes and law enforcement response from 2 to 4 p.m. in the WeHo Rec. Third, Jennifer, my roommate, and I, who live on the east side on Ogden, were at the Plummer Park meeting, and we walked with fellow neighbors to Lexington and Gardner, and we stood there talking, decompressing after the meeting, and literally every car we saw ran the stop sign. So I'm thinking, it's $500 if you run a stop sign. So I'm thinking, wait, we could actually get a lot more sheriffs if we just have 2 of our, motorcycle deputies just stay there, for 6 hours every day. We could add a whole lot of deputies on that intersection alone. And then we could do Romaine and Ogden, because that's another horrible one. Third, in the staff report, I want to commend again Lieutenant Lapkin, your team, Sergeant Duran, who's doing the numbers, because there were citations for scooters. Did you see that? So we're citing scooters. One didn't stop at a stop. Thank you. Thank you. I know you're overworked, you're undervalued, underpaid. We could go on, but thank you. You care. That's important. Our Sheriff's Department works for us. They care, and they really want to protect and serve us. Fourth, our unhoused, our metro stops. This is interesting. It was spoken that we want, about pickpocketing. I ride metro. That's my main mode, and I realized I can't ever use those sites because they're being housed for our unhoused. And many times those people are undergoing a mental crisis. If an unhoused member in our community is violent, what is the protocol? What should one do? With care and empathy, should I call you? Should I call, if they are violent? Will they just be released? Our sheriff's not going to come because the DA is not going to prosecute, they're not going to be held? Because that is becoming a greater issue. And then we should have unhoused resources on our digital billboards. I think that would be a greater resource for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Burton. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kevin Burton, a resident of West Hollywood, and I'm with the Bicycle Coalition. And I would like to second one of the remarks of the previous speaker and to thank Sheriff's Department staff, Lieutenant Lapkin and Sergeant Duran and their data analysis folks put together these reports every month, and particularly one that was a response originally to our organization's request to provide details on collisions between vehicles and bicyclists and pedestrians every month to the commission and thereby to the community. An example of the importance of that was that I think it was 6 months or so worth of data was provided at the request of City Council in a discussion of a bike-related issue that they had at a meeting a few weeks ago. One of the types of data that we have been requesting recently is the very sort of thing mentioned by the previous speaker, and that is the numbers of citations issued. And I'm pleased to see that those are now being provided for scooters, but I think it would be appropriate to provide them for bicycles as well, because they're covered by the Sheriff's Department. We often hear from the community that bicyclists are scofflaws and breaking laws and are not being cited sufficiently. And we as an organization hear from bicyclists that they're being cited unfairly. And it's hard to judge the real situation if we don't know how many citations are being issued and information about those. So I think that would be helpful. Also, in the past, we have on occasion asked for a year or two's worth of citation data of bicyclists specifically, and the Sheriff's Department has been quite responsive to that, and we would like, if possible, to get the last couple of years of citation data, which I hope is not too difficult to pull out of your database, for bicycles and scooters over a couple of years worth, just to have a view of what's gone on recently, and will be a good launching pad for the monthly reports you're now providing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all for the public comments.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 8C, the block-by-block security ambassadors will provide a report on the activity for the month of March.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to apologize for my absence in February. I had an unexpected emergency with my daughter that I needed to tend to. She had an injury during an athletic event, so I apologize for that. I do want to report for March that we conducted a total of 2,400 business contacts throughout the city. Made about 1,128 unhoused contacts throughout the city as well, and responded to 395 calls for service. East Side definitely saw an increase in unhoused contact as well as calls, as March did see an increase in rainy days. Encampments really took a lot of our focus, especially around the Plummer Park, Formosa, Poinsettia, and portions of Melrose areas. Bus stops along the boulevard also saw an increase in encampments with unhoused. In response to this, in response to increasing safety concerns around these areas that service our city staff, like park staff and families and residents, we did launch two additional fixed posts for the time being at the front side of Plummer Park. So if you guys have been there over the weekend, you'll see that we have a small umbrella set up there. We are getting some kiosks that will go up there in the next few days, actually. And in addition, this El Tovar alleyway, especially around the elevators. And so those areas along the elevators and around the buildings are an area of focus. As of 4/1, we also launched the 24/7 restroom program at West Hollywood Park. So that has been deployed since the night of 4/1. On average now, we're seeing about 11 uses throughout the night. We are keeping count of those, and we'll be providing those numbers on a monthly basis going forward. I do want to highlight a couple of things that we have had going on within our program. March did see the launch of our sensitivity training, specifically around the LGBTQ+ community. And so we have conducted 2 trainings so far in March, with another one taking place this Thursday from 3 to 6, and another one on the 17th from 11 to 2. And I would actually like to invite all of you, if you'd like to attend, to take part in the sensitivity training. I'd be happy to provide more information about location if you're interested. But just to go over a couple of things that have been covered so far. So part of this interactive training has gone over portions of history of the LGBTQ movement, appropriate terminology, best practices relevant to our work, especially as we're interacting with the public, and opportunities to develop and practice recovery skills when we encounter unexpected or unacceptable behaviors. How do we recover from a situation when we have misgendered someone, for example, and how do we move forward in those situations? So the instructor, I think, has done a really great job of bringing real life examples and his own experiences to the training that has allowed some really open dialogue with our ambassadors that we hope will allow us to better serve the community that we're in and allow us to be better educated about, you know, how we interact with the public in this space. And the other thing that we are also looking to provide starting next month is average response times for our calls. I know that that has been a question in the past as far as, you know, how quickly we're responding to calls. And so we're currently keeping a log of that, so I'll be able to provide some average response times for the commission next month. Aside from that, if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Commissioner Iranian.
Thank you. Good evening, Erica. It's good to
Hi.
see you, and I hope your daughter is doing better.
She is,
We
thank
did
you.
miss you last week, but we understand that family does come first. I have maybe one or two questions. In regards to the bathroom facilities at our parks, have there been any incidents that have been required for the fire or sheriffs to be called for a response for medical attention or whatever the case may be, of why we would call fire and the sheriffs?
Are you referring to the 24/7 program?
Yes.
Not yet.
Not
No.
yet.
None.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. My other question is the response times that you guys are giving us in the report for the month of March, we only have 13. What makes the cut to go on this report? Because I'm sure there have been more than 13 calls to the block-by-block security ambassadors, correct?
So are you referring to responses to the sheriffs?
Response times to the security ambassadors report. Is this the response time that we're looking at is for the security ambassadors, correct?
Well, these are response times in regards to sheriffs. The 13 calls?
The 13 calls, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is for the sheriffs, not block by block.
No, we just, as I mentioned, we, in regards to, I think it was your request a couple of months ago,
Right.
and how we would report our own calls. We started our own, yeah.
That is all. Thank you.
Commissioner Raymond, just to give the commission and the community to some context on that. So when the decision was made to expand the residential patrol program as a part of the block by block ambassador program, the city council did ask at that time that we keep track of the calls that block by block ambassadors make to the sheriff's station in terms of the response times. And so that's the reason why that data started being added to the monthly reports. And so as Erica had mentioned, that's only calls that are made from ambassadors to the sheriff's station, and that's the reason why it's being captured.
Which is 13 calls to the sheriff's department by the ambassadors is pretty good, I think. So I would have to say that the security ambassadors are doing a good job mitigating and de-escalating situations that are not requiring them to call our sheriff's department on a regular basis, correct?
Correct.
Good.
Yeah. So all of the calls listed here have required an emergency response.
Awesome. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Harrison.
Just had a question about the contact. Obviously, those numbers are, continue to go up. I realize that's because staff is being added. Are you seeing consistency in the individuals that you're seeing among the unhoused population? So are you receiving multiple calls for the same individuals?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of them we know by name.
Yeah, I assume that.
Yeah.
I know from my own streets and
Yeah.
blocks. But thank you for the service, and I know what you guys do on a daily basis. Just wanted to confirm what I thought already was probably true.
Yeah, and so once we get to like the 1 year mark, as I look at numbers like from month to month, they're pretty level. Some months you might see less activity, some months you might see more activity, but when you're comparing them year to year, especially the extra ambassadors that were at in October, you will see continued differences or variances, I should say, from year to year.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Blau.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the sensitivity training, is that planned to be ongoing? I'm super glad to hear that, and also thank you for sharing that that's going to be happening. But is that planned to be ongoing? I know that people leave and join the organization every so often.
Yes, so the way that we set out the training is so that the provider is able to come in as needed whenever we do hire new ambassadors. And on a quarterly basis, there will be a reinforcement training as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And also, just the note that I saw in here, that there was the call to the sheriffs about an item over at Ralph's, and so I just want to thank you as well for that's at least showing that Block by Block is providing presence over by Ralph's, which the community members were having concerns about. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I've noticed it seems like more new hires on the street. Are you staffing up? Are you fully staffed yet?
So yes, we are definitely staffing up. As I'm going through and really looking at our staff and looking at performance, I'm also mitigating issues there just to make sure that we have the best quality staff as possible. So part of that has been that, to be honest, just to make sure that, our ambassadors that we have on our team are following policies and procedures, and any issues with performance are, they're addressed immediately. And so, yeah, and then, and again, adding, some new kiosks and some new fixed posts. Obviously, we always want to make sure that we have enough staff to cover those.
Great, and I notice, just in my opinion with staff, overall the morale seems to be up and much, there just seems to be an improvement.
I hope so.
Yeah, because how long have you been with us?
About going on 8 months now.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, look great. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Secretary.
Yes, we have one public comment. Nick Roybal, if you want to approach the podium.
I just wanted to thank the ambassadors for more of their witness on the east side of our city. I think that's wonderful. The more kiosks we can have, the more engagement. And I echo your comment, Chair Holman, about the morale and the energy. I actually do see it. And I hope your daughter's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Secretary, any other public comments?
There's no other public comments on this item.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 8D, the Public Safety Commission will call for volunteers and members that are interested in being part of the WeHo Pride float. Pride is amongst us, or almost here. Is there any information the staff would like to share with us at this time?
Yes, good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. For item 8D, we are looking for the Public Safety Commission to call for volunteers for board members interested in riding on the WeHo Pride float on Sunday, June 2nd, 2024. Volunteers will be entered into a random selection drawing conducted by our city clerk. In past parades, the chair and vice chair of each advisory board and commission have been invited to participate in the WeHo Pride Parade on a city float as a means of representing their advisory board or commission. This year, 2 members of each advisory board and commission will once again be invited to participate on the float. However, the selection will be determined by a random draw. For each advisory board and commission, all individuals interested in riding on the float at the WeHo Pride Parade on Sunday, June 2nd will submit their name, and then 2 members will be selected on a date that will be shared with all appointed officials. A first and second alternative will also be drawn in the event that either one of the 2 selected members become unable to attend. While limited space only allows for 2 members of each advisory board and commission to ride on a city float, all advisory board and commission members are invited to be a part of the city's parade contingent. Other avenues for participation include partaking in the city's walking contingent, which could include carrying banners or choosing to ride on the WeHo pickup trolley. Thank you.
Director Rivas, so is it mandated that we proceed in this manner this year, that we have to put names into submission, or can we select as a commission 2 individuals?
That is the recommendation that comes from the city clerk's office, but each commission and advisory board, if they would like to go a different route in terms of selecting who the participants are, it's certainly the will of the commission to do so.
Commissioners? I know last year, I think the majority of us were on the float.
Most of us were.
Yeah, it was done differently last year.
Yeah.
I think we should just do our own float.
There
You know? Who's going to stop us?
The clerk.
Yeah.
No comment, no comment.
Melissa's gonna come get us, yeah.
Does anyone have any thoughts? I have my personal thoughts, but
I'm fine with the drawing.
Yeah, I'm also fine with the drawing. I think if there's more than 2 people on our commission that would be interested in going, it seems like the fair way to handle it.
And
My
then if there's
personal
more
opinion.
room, add people. There was lots of room left over last year.
Yeah.
well, last year there were 2 floats. Will there be 2 this year, or is there only going to be 1 commission and advisory board float?
No, there will be 2 this year as well. So, but the way that's being recommended is that you will have 2 representatives from each of the commissions and 2 representatives from each of the advisory boards to fill both of those floats, not votes, floats. But yes, so that is what's being recommended to each of the commissions and advisory board. The staff report will be the same staff report that goes before all of those appointed bodies.
Because I do remember last year, our second float, for the most part, was empty. Everyone was on the 1 float. So I'm just a little perplexed why the policy changed for this year, but okay. So we're going to throw our names into a hat? Is that what we're doing?
I think everyone's going to throw their names in a hat, you know. Whoever win the Mega Millions may win this ticket to be on the float.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to talk about in regards to this?
So it sounds like, I just want to make sure we have clarification. So it sounds like at least all the commissioners in attendance this evening would like to participate in riding the float, in addition to serving as alternatives, right, to those primary representatives. Does that sound?
I didn't say that. I didn't agree.
If I choose not to be on the float, can I walk alongside the float with a couple of go-go boys next to me representing West Hollywood?
So there are other alternatives in terms of participating that were mentioned. So yeah, holding of banners, walking in front of the floats is definitely something that can be considered. Is the consensus again for every?
Everyone's put their name in the hat.
I'm not putting my name in the hat. I'm not putting my name in the hat.
Okay.
I'm adamantly against the change. But I'm sure we will be fully represented.
Yeah. So all the commissioners present this evening, with the exception of Chair Hallman, would like to submit their names for writing or participating on the float. Is that correct?
Aye.
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 Okay. I guess we're moving on then to item 8E. Proposal to change the Public Safety Commission meeting to the fourth Monday of the month. Staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. Due to the recent enhancements made to the requested reports presented to the Commission at the request of feedback from the community and the Commission, there have been delays in receiving public agency reports early in the month. The delay impacts the time in which City staff has to review and complete the posting of the agenda. We ask that the Public Safety Commission decide if the monthly Commission meetings will be moved to the fourth Monday of each month.
Commissioners, thoughts on this item?
I guess, I mean, looking at the dates, the fourth Monday of the month is always or frequently overlapped with a holiday coming up. Memorial Day in May is the fourth Monday of the month. Then shortly thereafter, maybe even Labor Day. I'm not sure where that one sits, but definitely it's the same week as Thanksgiving and Christmas is the fourth Monday of the month. That would be my biggest concern, is that we're gonna have to move that around as well. So now we're talking about a quarter of the dates at least, if not kind of a third.
Commissioners, anyone else?
Same concern.
Have we checked with the Sheriff's Department to make sure that we'll get these reports at the fourth Monday of the month compared to our regular scheduled meetings? Because we could change our scheduled meetings, but if the reports are not going to be available on the fourth Monday of the month, then what's the point of changing our dates?
So the reports will definitely be submitted within that time frame. What makes it difficulty is like this month, for example, you have the first that landed on a Monday, which was last week. And so essentially we're asking our sheriff station and other public safety partners to crunch numbers, right, and provide all that information. There certainly has been additional asks from this commission as well as from community members. We heard a request that came in as well, and that information, right, is being developed. It does take time, and it's not just the preparation of those reports from the public safety agencies. It then gets submitted to city staff, and sometimes there might be information that we may go back and forth on in terms of stuff that needs to be updated as well. So there's a process there. So if it's the will of the commission to maintain our current schedule, I just know that there have been asks and requests from certain commissioners as well in terms of when the posting of the agenda, when that information is disseminated. So I just want to make sure that we're clear and we're all on the same page in terms of that expectation and understanding that process as it unfolds. And we try to do our best, obviously, to make sure that we're providing the information in a timely manner, which we are complying with Brown Act. We're posting the agenda following all of those guidelines, but it makes more sense to have our Public Safety Commission meetings on the fourth Monday. We did look at the schedule to Commissioner Blau's question and comment, and no differently than what we're going to be doing for a couple of our meetings coming up, one being in June, because on the second Monday, our city council has actually rescheduled their meeting that evening, and so we needed to solidify a new date for the month of June. So we would simply look at and forecast, right, on those days that a holiday is impacted, if, whether it's Thanksgiving or whatnot, Memorial Weekend, we would look for an alternative date for that month, at a different location or here, hopefully in the council chambers. And so we could work through that, but I think ideally, it would lend ourselves to having more time, but we can certainly, again, just maintain our current schedule, and again, I want to make sure, though, as those inquiries come in, because we certainly want to post the agenda too and get it out to the community and to you all in a timely manner. But as long as that's understood, we're perfectly fine with maintaining our current schedule.
Commissioner Blau.
I guess I would say my recommendation or my comment would be what's the most helpful, at least from my perspective, is consistency. And so when we throw these like holidays in there, I don't know where it's going to land, and so it's harder for me to adjust things. And sometimes I have to travel and book that out many months in advance. And so if we go for the fourth Monday of the month or any other day that has like a lot of holidays, if we had a kind of agreed upon alternative date, say, oh, we always, if it's a holiday week, then we switch it to the third Tuesday. I don't know if this is, the council chambers is used on Tuesdays, but something like that, where I can be like, oh, okay, calculus, figure it out. That would at least be helpful from my perspective. But I also understand, yeah, I definitely understand the driving concern. It's a lot to ask, like this last week, for instance, and all that information that the sheriff's department, the fire department, and block by block put together based on March was a huge rush.
My other concern, just piggybacking on what Commissioner Blau said, is, we also got to make sure that the community is able to attend, because these holidays that fall on a Monday, most of our community members are not going to be available to attend our in-person meetings. So I know the meetings are available via Zoom, but also we got to think about our community members, which I'm very adamant about, wanting our community members to attend our meetings. So I just want to make sure if we do have these meetings on a Monday, that we should have a backup date set. Not we're going to figure out a date, but it'll be a date set in stone.
I'm confused because I'm the most tenured commissioner here, and our meetings have always been the same date. This has become an issue of late. So why is this a problem all of a sudden? Because we never had this problem before.
Yeah, so the requests of revisiting the way that information is being presented, providing the year-to-date on the crime reports takes more time. And so the West Hollywood Sheriff Station database, I shouldn't just say West Hollywood, it's for the entire Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So it's no fault of the West Hollywood Station, but the database and the system that they utilize is very manual. And so, when you're dealing with circumstances like that and there's additional information, like there was a request concerning, right, well, can we have more maybe potential data pulled on traffic-related citations? That is extremely manual for the station. So it would be nice if it was very automated and it would be maybe 2-3 clicks of a system to be able to provide you with the information that you need, or customize a report, right, that would provide the data in a spreadsheet the way that we want. But the reality is it doesn't. And so as we've modified and curtailed some of the information over time from different requests, that has led to that taking longer. So that is the reason. And the fire department generally has provided the same level of data, but our block-by-block ambassador, that reporting has increased as well. I mean, with the expansion of the residential patrol, that was something that did not exist in previous years, and so that is also a pretty manual system for Erica, for our block-by-block team, to have to pull out information that they need to present. So,
Got it. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
I do have concerns, as Commissioner Blau does, because if we move to that week, it is typically a holiday week. So that means we will deal with cancellation of meetings or trying to reschedule meetings.
So I think the best way to approach that is to have a calendar that we present, right, not only for the remainder of this calendar year, if it's the will of the commission, move forward with this option, so that we outline that. We're not looking at making any changes, because if the commission agrees with moving forward, the next step would be that we would now have to bring an item before the city council to modify the bylaws for the Public Safety Commission. And so in doing so, we would be looking at earliest probably May 6th in terms of doing that. So we wouldn't want to impact May's meeting. We would keep it as is on the second Monday, no differently than we have been. But then beginning in June, and since June, we're already having to modify and make a change there. We would begin at that month and then look at the rest of the calendar year. And then as we're leading closer into the end of this calendar year, bring an item before the commission for next calendar year, and kind of solidifying what those dates are so that everybody has an understanding. And maybe the fallback is, well, for those couple of months that we do have Mondays that land on a holiday, then we go back to the second Monday, right? Which we know council chambers is obviously available, and we know those 2 months per se would be months that, you know, if there is a little bit of a delay in terms of getting agenda posted and reports, then we understand why.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners?
I do like Director Rivas's suggestion that if there is a holiday, we go back to the second Monday. I'm okay with that.
Providing someone doesn't secure chambers from underneath us, because that is a possibility, correct? There's no guarantee that the chambers will be available.
It's a possibility, but right now, as it stands, we are the commission, right, that schedules that, and so it would be on us on the city side to make sure that we lock in all of those dates ahead of time. We could always release if something comes up, and that's not a date that we solidify. But yeah.
Okay, commissioners, any other comments? Are we in agreement?
I think as long as the calendar's set, and to the points made earlier, yeah, I see no problem. If it gives the sheriffs block by block more time to put the data together that many on this days have requested, then I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so we unanimously agree? Commissioner Nickel?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
So it sounds like consensus on moving forward.
Do we vote?
From the commission?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item 9 on our agenda, items from staff. Do we have any additional items?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. Per the request of the Public Safety Commission, we conducted research to begin planning for and securing a location to host the Public Safety Open House. So next month, we will be hosting a Public Safety Open House on May 1st at 6:30 p.m. at Plummer Park. We will have representatives from our Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, block by block, and our Public Safety Commission board members in attendance. We invite everyone in the community to join us for an evening of interacting with and learning about our public safety partners and the Public Safety Commission. Refreshments will be served, no RSVP is required. If you have any questions about the open house, please email us at safety@weho.org.
And how are we notifying residents?
I'm sorry?
How are we notifying residents of this event?
So we are going to distribute a flyer via social media and put it on our website, city website, and start pushing it through those forums. And we'll also have the flyer, announce the event at a city council meeting as well.
Okay.
And how about for the senior citizen residents who are not on social media or on X? How are they be notified to attend this open house?
We will have the flyers available at local parks and events as well. So if they're attending, I know there's a senior event coming up, we'll make sure that we have it available at the booths to make sure that we reach them as well. Our next announcement, the City of West Hollywood will be hosting a Civic Leadership Academy, which will last 11 weeks. The goal of the program is to empower attendees to improve the city by becoming civic leaders and advocates. Participants who are nominated and selected will learn about the various city departments, services, and resources available to the community. The Community Safety Department will be presenting to the group on May 11th alongside our public safety partners with sheriffs, LA County Fire, and Block by Block. Planning for National Night Out has begun. We held our first in-person meeting with the neighborhood watch captains last week, and it was very well attended. We will have a complete list of National Night Out neighborhood participants by June 5th. National Night Out is on August 6th. If anyone is interested in hosting a National Night Out event, please reach out to us at safety@weho.org. On May 6th, we have a tentative item slated to go to City Council to extend the block by block contract by 1 year. Currently, the Public Safety Division is learning about community safety officer programs in other cities. Community safety officers support and enhance the services provided by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to keep communities safe and respond to non-emergency calls. We anticipate bringing more information forward to City Council next month to obtain further direction. The city continues planning for Pride 2024, which will take place May 31st through June 2nd. A meeting was held last week for all the local businesses to share information on events, opportunities to participate, and impacts. Please visit www.wehopride.com for planned street closures and additional information about the event. Per the request of the Public Safety Commission, we have invited Healthcare in Action to join us at the next commission meeting in May to provide a presentation on the outreach and social services provided in partnership with the city. This includes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Yes. So are we looking at the calendar, back to what you were talking about, Director Rivas, are we tentatively, council approval, looking at the June meeting to be the third Monday as we rescheduled it to previously, or to the fourth Monday as we're talking about now?
So we had sent an email to all the commissioners to kind of gauge availability for the June meeting. I will resend an email tomorrow morning, or this evening actually. We just need confirmation from a few more of commissioners to lock in that date.
Okay, so we're still looking at doing it on the third Monday then?
Potentially, yeah, depending on availability of the majority of the commissioners.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Director Rivas?
So yeah, I was just asking Anita if we knew how many commissioners have responded and confirmed for the third Monday in June. So right now we have 3 commissioners, so we need 1 more in order to maintain quorum and to have a meeting. So just kind of giving a little bit of a sense and some information on that. So look at your calendars if it's something that's doable. The alternative is looking at a Tuesday meeting as opposed to a Monday meeting. Just know that City Council is meeting the 2nd and 4th Mondays. I believe maybe I'm wrong on the 4th, but I know definitely the 2nd. But it sounds like if we're looking at the 3rd, then that means Council is not meeting on the 3rd Monday. And so we definitely have looked at the availability of the council chambers, and it is available. So if you could just take a look again, let us know, and then that way we could set that date.
That's the 17th, right?
17th, correct.
And is it possible for staff just to send out an email to remind us so we know who has confirmed availability?
Well, I mean, if you haven't responded or whatnot, I mean, we don't want to get into explaining who's available or not available unless the commissioners want to.
No, I mean, or just a reminder email to us.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Item 11, commissioner comments. Commissioners, do we have any comments this evening? No one?
Okay, I'll say something. I'm happy to see the Civic Engagement Academy. I wish I could join it. I think 10 weeks is a lot to commit, especially that time of year, just personally speaking, every week. But I think it's something that came up yesterday at an event, and just, our need to increase civic engagement. And I think it's across the board. I think we all need to be better at it, because I think that a lot of people find that stuff happens without their knowledge, and by the time they're made aware, it's a little bit too late. Even looking out in the room tonight, it would be great to see a more full room. We always see the same familiar faces that are amazing and engaged, so those should be the presidents of the academy, in my opinion. But I'm happy to see that. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. It's 7:28. Sure no one has anything else?
I got something. I have a question, Director Rivas. I actually do have a question. Regarding Doheny and Cynthia, obviously that goes to kind of the city's traffic engineering department and further into, I think, Transportation Commission, maybe? Because that is the border with the city of Beverly Hills, in general, how do we handle street borders like that?
So it depends. They get kind of tricky, but along Doheny, typically everything on the west side is Beverly Hills. Everything on the east side is West Hollywood. But there are nuances to that. If it becomes a question, then we typically will have our Public Works Department work with the Public Works Department in Beverly Hills. And depending on what it is, maybe it's an improvement to a traffic signal. Maybe, Beverly Hills may be strapped in terms of not being able to dedicate a certain amount of funds. And if it's something that is essential and that the city feels that they're willing to contribute towards, then they would potentially, take responsibility and fund it entirely. And so those types of things do happen at times, but generally speaking, we have a great relationship with Beverly Hills, and so they're always amenable and open to making any sort of improvements. But we would consult with them, look at what their data is showing as well, versus our data. And so we'll pull traffic collision reports. We'll have our traffic engineers on both sides in both cities provide their recommendations in terms of what mitigations could potentially be implemented, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And to the public safety officer item that Anita, you had mentioned might go to council next month. Are those typically private contractors?
No, so we are currently still kind of evaluating different programs that exist in nearby jurisdictions, and the community safety officers would actually be City of West Hollywood employees. So they would be fully hired by the City of West Hollywood. They would go through a extensive background check by the sheriffs. So it'd be kind of a collaborative efforts between the city and the sheriff's department together. So no, it would not be contracted.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you twisted my arm. I have a question. Is there, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, Anita or Director Rivas, is there a way that the Public Safety Commission can take a tour of the command center at the Sheriff's Department with the drones, see how the command center works, or how the drone is deployed and what is seen? Because I know we had all agreed that there was going to be a room where we could see all the equipment and stuff like that. Will we be able to see what that looks like at the sheriff's station? I don't know if that's something that I should have asked prior to when the sheriff's department was talking.
Yeah, so we are not yet at that stage in the process. So the next steps that the city council directed staff to do, which we're in the progress of doing now, is returning with draft policies on how that type of use of technology would be utilized. And then, based on that discussion, further direction would be provided to us by the City Council in terms of moving forward. They may ask for additional information as a part of those draft policies, right? And so we're still in that kind of phase. And so if we get to the point where we do get approval in terms of how that type of equipment will be utilized, then we would move forward in outfitting the sheriff's station with, let's say, a real-time watch center and the use of drones. And then that's something that we could coordinate potentially with the sheriff's station to see if that's something that could be toured. Of course, there's security involved with those types of operations, and so we would have to consult with the department. But we could certainly look into it at that time.
Okay, great, thank you. So before we adjourn, I do want to thank our residents that have taken the time out of their evening to come out and join us, because we do appreciate that, and we know everyone's busy. So thank you, and also to our different agencies for the reports, to all the commissioners for their participation. And with that being said, we are adjourned until Monday, May 13th at 6 p.m. Have a wonderful evening.